Thank you very much, Pooja, for the kind introductions. And now let me introduce the man who needs no introduction, but still I have to go through the rigmaroles of introducing him. Raman is widely regarded as the pioneer of the BPO industry in India, fondly referred to as the father of the BPO industry, though I would like to call him the grandfather of the BPO industry because he was there.
I'm not that old, Jhankhana. I'm not that old.
Yeah, you're not old, but you have got industry, you've given it the limelight it deserved, you got it to the forefront. Um, Gratitude to you. Raman is a pioneer 4 times over, having successfully led the BPO initiatives of American Express, the so famous American Express customer service, thanks to him. General Electric, which we now know as Genpact, and Spectramind, which is now Wipro BPO. Before he incubated Quatrro, which commenced operations way back in 2007. Raman is also the past chairman of the executive committee of NASCOM, board member in West India, and of National Skill Development Council, past chairman of BPO committee of ASSOCHAM, immediate past regional president and board member of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, NCR, board member of Thai NCR, board member and co-founder of Indian Angel Network, which is globally one of the largest networks of angel investors, as we all know. And he also sits on the Venture Capital Investment Committee, hosted by SIDBI for the distribution of fund of funds by the government of India, and is the co-founder and member of IC of the IAN Fund. He is an active angel investor with 50 plus personal investments in startups and sits on the board of few investee companies. How I wish I was on that list too. He is an active resource leader at the Isha Insight program, which is focused on creating next generation business leaders. He also sits on various committees formed by the central and state level governments in India. Raman is a rare example of a living practitioner of the BPO industry, having created many successes and overcome many challenges. As a tribute to his contribution to the creation of the BPO industry in India, he has been given multiple awards. Raman is a chartered accountant and a chartered management accountant. In his career spanning 35 plus years, Raman has extensive experience in spearheading diverse markets such as North America, Europe, Japan, Asia Pacific, and Australia. And I consider myself so fortunate to be sitting here today and to be able to speak to you and ask you some of the questions which are on my mind. And so is Lakshmi, I'm sure. Lakshmi, do you want to?
First of all, that was rather generous as an introduction, Jhankhana. Thank you very much. I must say some of the things you brought out are things I did in the past, like the VCIC or the board seats at Invest India. But yes, by and large, what you spoke about is correct, and that was rather kind and generous.
That was phenomenal, sir. So, it's kind of you to be here today for our generation. And Lakshmi and I feel very fortunate to be sitting here and getting your views on some questions that are on our minds, and I'm sure on the minds of all the SMEs out there who are waiting to hear you speak today. Over to you, Lakshmi.
Thank you, Jhankhana, and a big welcome, Raman Roy. It's indeed really a pleasure to be able to, ask some questions and get your great, information from you, who've been sort of, spearheaded so many of, the industries, as what Jhankhana mentioned. And it's, such an amazing, resume you have. It's really, are really fortunate that we can be able to, sort of talk to you. So now, today, we'd like to start off with, growth of our SME industry, especially from the past couple of years with the pandemic. SME did take a hit. A lot of companies sort of went down. Some of them survived, And so today, what is it that, is really needed for these SMEs to build their competency and be in the growth trajectory? As we know, it is mostly based on, skill building. Everyone talks, you have to be upskilling, reskilling, and as an employer, we need to sort of have the talent retention, which has become a huge issue, especially now. So, Raman, can you sort of share your thoughts on this as to how would you really tell the SME companies how to go forward?
Thank you very much. Yet again, thanks for having me and being so generous with your comments. So, see, you spoke of a lot of things, and a lot of things come to my mind as I hear you. As an industry, we started with labor arbitrage. That was the starting point where we said that we could do what you do in your markets at a cheaper price and at a price point very different than the price that you pay in your home country. And we'll do it as well, if not better. And that was the starting point of what we started out on. Over a period of time, we built skills and capabilities, which then became the selling proposition. We went to the customer and said, we know this better than you know this, and we'll be able to do it. And that journey has continued to the extent that today there are certain skills and capabilities that are available with this industry in India that the host country does not even have. Because we have incubated it, we've grown it. So therefore, that brings out the aspect of skills and knowledge for that capability. It is no more an aspect of having unskilled people who we could get ready. When I started this, we could hire a new person and get that person into revenue generating mode in 2 weeks. Correct. Because, you don't need very much more. If all you have to pick up the phone is say you're calling from XYZ company, good morning, good afternoon, and they say, what is the balance in my account, or did you receive my payment or something? In 2 weeks, we could train the people and they'd become revenue generating. A lot of that got replaced by machines. Yeah. Now is higher skills, and therefore the skilling aspect that you spoke about has become far, far more critical. But I'll come to that. Let me go via the pandemic that you spoke about. See, pandemic is a reality. Hopefully, you did not do it. I know I didn't do it. And hopefully, none of the audience that is hearing this did it. It happened. It's a reality. It's been terrible. Yes, businesses closed down, and where the back office businesses were servicing those businesses that closed down. Yeah. There was loss of revenue. There was impact on profitability, and regrettably, some people went under. Some people were able to survive, but some did go under. How to get out of it? I think it is the same, not to rely on cost arbitrage, labor arbitrage, but to be able to figure out where your customer base is, what is the skill set they need, and being able to provide that capability at a price point that nobody else can offer. So that is the easy part. The tougher part is the skilling part that you speak about, and that is where the challenge is. A whole lot of our educational institutions, regrettably, have not kept pace with the changes that are happening in the industry. Absolutely. I get invited to be a part of some juries and to be a part of some award-giving ceremonies that people have, where I check with them what they are teaching. And there are colleges that are teaching COBOL today, which is, kids out of that college will not get a job.
Disaster.
Absolutely.
Right. So our academia has not kept pace. So when I talk to those professors,
True that.
and I tell them that, why don't you teach, Java, C++, whatever it is, the flavor of the month keeps changing. And they laugh and say, हमें नहीं आता है, हम क्या पढ़ाएंगे? We don't know. What will we teach? So the upgradation of the teachers is a critical aspect. Before we talk of skilling our students, we have to skill our professors so that they can skill the students. But the great thing about India as a country is that we get terrific raw material. As students, the quality of the thinking, the quality of the capability, the quality of the learnability. I rate, and in the last 30 odd years, I've done business across the world in many continents. And Jhankhana spoke about some of that in her kind introduction. The learnability factor of our workforce is among the highest.
Wow.
In large numbers, no workforce can get trained or retrained the way we Indians, and I have tried to analyze it a lot. We are a third world country. A lot of us are, in middle classes. We are trying to earn a living. We are like a sponge, absorbing knowledge and getting it and taking it to the next level. But today, as an industry, we've spoiled. Literally, I do not use the term lightly. We've spoiled the environment because we've gone on to tell our potential workforce, okay, your college did not train you or teach you. You come, I will give you a salary and I will train you. Which is effectively what happens. I mean, both of you run your companies, you hire people, you pay them a salary, and then you put them in a training room and then you train them. I mean, at one point of time, I counted the number of people I used to train. You spoke about Spectramind. At one point of time, we were hiring 100 people a day.
Wow.
100 a day. And we were training those people, and I calculated the people that Delhi University is training, and I calculated the number of people that we were training, and I made a claim saying I trained more people than Delhi University.
Any day,
because
sir.
That is the number of people we were training.
Any day. I've heard stories about, those were the early days when I got into this industry. I used to work for this company, GTL Limited, and I used to hear stories of you every day being present in the induction batch and talking to people yourself. Though you were doing 100 people a day.
Yeah, Jhankhana.
For every induction, and that was talk of the country, not talk of the town. It was the talk
that I don't know, but I was a firm believer that when the employees hear that Raman took this decision and they say, what a bad decision, they should have met that idiot who's taking those decisions. So it was a practice that every batch I would meet at least for 1 hour. But that is the point that Lakshmi raised is we were willing to pay a salary and train people, and that bad practice has continued.
Correct.
Now we have to get our act together on higher skills, because remember at that time the skills we were training people on, we could train them in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Nowadays, at least in my company, we spend 90 to 120 days training people on some of the higher end work that we do. And okay, today we still sustain it. I don't know till when will we sustain it. But Lakshmi, to your question, skilling is critical. The companies will play a big role in skilling people because our academic institutions are not playing that role. But what we need is a multi-pronged strategy, upgrade academic institution, Get the kids to understand that it is their responsibility to get skilled. The mindset of some of our workforce is, hey boss, I've arrived, now train me whichever way you want and I will see what I can do about it. They do not take ownership, they do not take responsibility. So that mindset has to change. And then we have to upgrade our capabilities as companies, as employers, for the skills that we give to people. Today, we do not collaborate well enough with each other to say, okay, attrition is a reality. I will hire 100 people, 60, 70 will leave by the end of the year or whatever. But I skill them so that they are skilled for the industry, whether they work for my company or any other company. Those are upgradations that have to happen. And we are speaking at a NASSCOM forum. NASSCOM has a big role to play for the industry to be able to collaborate to make that happen.
Sir, you lead, we will follow you. I think we should use this platform to take a pledge and all of us just follow it, because that way our retention, which was the next question, that I think one part of the question that Lakshmi had. So one part you answered saying, when you were doing the inductions, people felt privileged to be there and work for you. So that worked for retention. And, making them pay and take ownership of the skill they have received will also play a bigger role in holding people back and retaining them. So I think we should start today. I mean, why wait for tomorrow? Let's start today.
Jhankhana, as we've grown, and I use the term we, ensuring that I am very much a part of this problem. We have grown so dramatically as an industry. We are 1.5 million people today, and we've grown. We have not focused enough attention on creating careers for people. I've had counseling sessions with people where I tell them, look, where we were 500,000 people as an industry, and today we are 1.5 or maybe 1.8 million people, where I've told them, look, if we are growing at the pace we are growing, we will need supervisors, we'll need managers, we'll need AVPs, we'll need VPs. So there are opportunities for growth. It is a pyramid. Yes, you don't need as many VPs as you need customer service agents. That would be a disaster, right? If we had as many VPs as we had customer service agents.
Yeah.
But there is a hierarchy and there is an opportunity. I think if we make the opportunities apparent, if we make case studies of people who have succeeded, people will stay in the industries. I've had opportunities to host people who joined us right out of college. The girlfriend and the boyfriend met in my office. They got to know each other. They dated. They got married. They grew. They got children. The children are school growing. That has happened, and they are still a part of the industry. And they have done well. And there are times some of them are kind enough to call me over for a meal, and we talk about their journey. And the journeys have been phenomenal. Why? Because they saw an opportunity. They saw growth. They saw their family saying, "Arey, us company ke liye kaam karte ho, bada acha hai." They see that your company is looking after you. They see that you can buy a car, you can buy a house, you can, those are aspirational aspects of the employees. And as employers, as an industry, we have to show them a path, not say that, like in the army, you are there, after so many years, you'll become a captain, then you'll become from a captain to a major to anything just because you're there. But to say, if you demonstrate competency, you have the ability to go up the hierarchy. That is our challenge, and that is where skilling and retention meet to create the path forward.
Absolutely. And on that note, Raman, I would say that you can give growth to people if the companies themselves grow. Now, here we are not talking about Wipros and Teleperformance and Aegis kind of companies. We're here talking about the SMEs of India in the hinterland of India, where they really do not know how to access the market, whether it is domestic or international. And I could say that while we ourselves have seen a lot of success in the domestic market, I myself grapple with the thought of how to foray into the international market. We have an expertise in servicing that market, but I do not know how to access that market. So would you like to share this knowledge or information with us? Because I'm sure a lot of us out here, I talk to other fellow entrepreneurs in the industry, and we all face the same issues. How do we access the market? What do we do differently to attract these customers? How do we attract customers from, say, US, Canada, UK, Europe, etc.?
So I don't know if you or the others watching this are going to like my answer, but let me.
Oops.
See, it is a matter of experimenting. It is a matter of testing out. You go to a restaurant. Let's say the first time you went to a Chinese restaurant, right? The menu didn't make sense to you.
Right.
Okay. And you spoke to the waiter and you spoke to others on the table to say, ये sweet corn soup अच्छा होता है, कौन सा अच्छा होता है?
हाँ,
कि कौन सा नूडल खाना है मेरे को? ये sweet and sour क्या होता है? See, you tested it out. But you still had the backup of saying ये अच्छा नहीं लगेगा तो घर जाके पराठा रोटी खाएंगे.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It is the same principles. You have to ring fence yourself. You have to go into another market. You have to go and test it out to see what they need, what price point they are willing to pay, what are their expectations. And before you start testing on the customers, you have to keep your eyes and ears open and see what others are doing. And whether you have the wherewithal to offer at least the same. My advice to people is, where you see others doing some things, where you're entering into a market, and today it is competitive, right? And you are unable to offer the services at what others in the competition are offering. It is better not to enter than be hurt and leave.
Get it. Yep.
You have to make an assessment to say, at least I will be able to meet that service. At least I will be able to offer that service at that price point. Or then be able to find better to say, I can do it cheaper, or I can offer better service at the same price point. And that is why testing the market, and yes, it costs money to hire a sales guy, to go after the market, to test it out. Today, the terms in the industry are mainstream terms, pilots. We invented those terms because we had to test out. We had to pilot, we had to go into production, we had to demonstrate to the customer that we can do it as well as you can in your home market with higher paying resources of what we can do here.
Right, yeah.
And there were paid pilots and there were free pilots.
Correct. Yeah.
And there were free pilots because the customer was not willing to pay. And we were willing to do the pilot because, as you know, I've had dozens of conversations, maybe hundreds, to tell the customer that, okay, let's agree to the parameters. Yes, I'm not going to charge you, but if I meet those parameters in 30 days or 45 days or 60 days, you will give me so much business.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you made there, Raman. While you give them a free trial, but you also make them commit to certain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they actually,
I learned the hard way. There were a lot of people who did free trials and then went and set up their captives. Some of the largest captives understood India as a part of Spectramind for free.
Wow. Oh my God.
One of them, and I won't name the company, one of them gave me business, but took a decision to set up a captive. In setting up business, they had an extra 3 in that said Raman will personally help us set up our office in India.
Oh my goodness.
And I had no option. Their senior management I recruited. Their office premises I went and found. That time, it was not that simple to get an international line. Nowadays, it is all on the web and everything. You had to lay the lines. I got all that done in return for a few thousand business people worth of business that they gave me. So we learned if the customer is so clever, in getting that in return, what can I get? Let me share another story with your audience. One time we created a product to monitor how things were done. The first call resolution and some of the things that are now the norms. We created something to say that we are doing better, more cost effective and superior customer service. We created a tool to do that. It was technology and feedback and all that tool. I made a presentation to the customer in our quarterly review, how we were doing and how we were using that tool. The customer loved it. They stood up and clapped, and we were so thrilled that they stood up and clapped. Then the customer said, their headquarters was in Texas, if I remember correctly. We want to implement this in Texas. We couldn't believe that night there was a party. I paid for the liquor and meals that the customer wants to use our tool in the US. We were so delighted. We offered to do it in the US. We offered to send people there to implement that at our cost.
Okay.
Till a few months later, somebody asked me, Raman, unse paisa manga aapne? Kare, nahi manga yaar. We were so delighted that they were taking our product there. We forgot to ask for money.
Oh my God, that's
right. Again, a big learning. Where you do it, you see that you get something in return, whether it is money or a
but that was your
or
passion.
something. Absolutely.
That was your passion.
Yeah,
this is
just amazing what you're hearing. So, Raman, going forward, now I just want to talk about the future. What is the future for BPM, especially in connection with the emerging technologies coming up? I mean, everyone knows about the AI, robotic, and also about AR, VR, ML, all these technologies. How much do you think, the SME industry and the BPM will be able to leverage, and how important it is for our industry to be part of this technology, and maybe sort of a low-cost automation, maybe not like the full, what is sort of talked about, and how is this going to really affect the SME BPM industry?
So again, Lakshmi, you to my mind, I broke up your comment into 3 different questions, and I'll try and address all of them. How important it is a matter of life and death for us to be a part of this future.
Wow.
If we do not participate in it, we will die a slow death. Will it be an overnight death? No, it will not be. Yeah. I used the COBOL example earlier. There are still a few 100,000 people employed managing COBOL programs within some of our companies because our customers have not upgraded from COBOL programs. So it is not an overnight death, but the death knell would have sounded if we are not a part of the future. Now, with these technologies coming in, and where we are a part of the future, we can collaborate and be a part of the solution. That to me is the first prize. where our customers are going in for AI, ML, others to say, okay, we will help you because we also have the most knowledge that will get translated into algorithms that the machines will work with. But in that partnership, we have a role to play of what the future will look like. And we need to be able to partner to that. The skill set required to be able to meet that future will be vastly different. Let's take the example, let's learn from history. A vast majority of our calls to the call center were balance inquiries or level 1 calls. You ask a question and it's a rule set that you follow, and you get the answer based on a predefined rule set. And all we had to do was train people on the rule set. A lot of that work went into Philippines because their voice and accent was superior. And then technology replaced a lot of that.
Right.
And even at that time, people predicted a death knell for the industry because some technology came in. We've been growing this year. If I go by the NASCOM report that was just released a few days ago, the BPM industry grew double digits. And it will continue to grow double digits is the prediction into the future. But if you analyze the total revenue of the BPM industry and the number of employees, earlier our number of employees used to grow with the growth of revenue.
Correct. Yeah.
Same trajectory. Now the number of employees are growing at a slower pace than the revenue, which means mathematically the revenue per employee has increased.
Yep.
Where the revenue per employee has increased, it is not because the companies are willing to pay more per employee, but because the skill set is different. They are paying for a different skill set, and the challenge is on us to create an environment where we are able to feed that skill set. Now I have to, okay, this will hopefully get edited out. I'm sitting next to a window and the sun is falling on my camera. Okay.
Yeah, this is better. Yes.
Okay, this much we'll edit out. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Jhankhana, you want to?
Yeah, I think okay. So you said that we need to build the skill sets required to embrace technology and offer it together as a solution. To this, we can move on, but to my mind and from my experience with the domestic customers, I have seen that your customers do not want a bundle or a solution from a BPO player. They want to go for technology to technology companies and for BPO to for these kind of services, backend services to BPO companies. So they do not try and the entire solution together from you. So how do you address that? Because that has been for last 4 years. That's what our challenge has been in the domestic.
Jhankhana, we have to look at our strategy of what we are offering to sell.
Okay.
DIY, if you go to the furniture world, IKEA offers you a table that you can assemble yourself.
Right.
Give you all parts, and yes, there is a market for DIY where people will take the components and put it together, but there is simultaneously a market to buy the ready-made furniture because it is timely, more effective others.
Right.
The problem I find with due respect, and a lot of those people are the target audience, hopefully hearing this and not already switching off and going off. The problem is that on the components of technology, we try to make money. On services, we try to make money, and we price ourselves where the customer looks at it and say, hey, hold on. If I did the technology myself, I can save some money. When you offer integrated platforms, You can give a car to say, "Mere se gaadi le lo, put your own petrol, get your own driver." That is what happens in the US. You take a car, you put your own petrol, you get the driver.
You drive yourself, yeah.
You drive yourself, you go from one place to the other, and if you can't get parking, shit luck, you can't go to the meeting because you can't find parking.
Yeah.
That is where the Ubers come into play, or the Olas and the Ubers, where you say, okay, I'm not paying for the car, I'm not paying for the driver, I'm not paying for fuel, I'm paying per kilometer for the integrated service, and I'll take it at a variable, I'll take it when I need it, I will leave it when I need it, and that's what I pay for it. But if you calculate, you may have paid a little more per kilometer than you would have if you had your own car. But why are Ubers and Olas thriving? Because they have a value proposition, which is better than taking the components and doing it yourself. If Uber can crack it, why can't we as an industry crack it to come back to a price point where, and it is not only price, you know, Uber is not trying to tell you I'm the cheapest, Ola is not trying to tell you I'm the cheapest, they are trying to sell on convenience, they are trying to sell on, you know, a menu-based approach. You need a bigger car today, we'll give you a bigger car. You need a smaller car, we'll give you. So we have to create that equivalent in the domestic market for our customers to offer an integrated service. And we have to realize that our larger profitability will come with volume and scale and not try to make that profit in one deal.
Wow. I wish I had spoken to you like 4 years ago. And by now I would have cracked the equation. And so many of my colleagues out there would have too. And I can tell you, Raman, nobody's switching off and going away. They are all glued more than ever.
We'll figure out, yeah.
Thank you so much for this answer. Spot on. Lakshmi.
Thank you, Raman. Yeah. Now coming back to again, talent retention. Now again, back to pandemic, because that's what is the latest effect on the BPM industry. Now this pandemic has actually increased the talent war for various reasons. So where I think the demand for the employees has become much more than sort of the supply. And then also, which led to the great resignation, which the whole world is trying to tackle with, and a lot of organizations are struggling with that. And also a little bit, I mean, I'm sorry I have to mention this as a part of the question, is because they're all sort of related or tied together. I just also thought if you can even talk, besides the talent war what we're having, also about the moonlighting, what's been a big issue now for most of the companies, where people, because of this work from home, have been doing more than one job. So Raman, would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this?
Yet again, you're not going to like the answer, and your target audience will not like the answer. So this one I particularly need a lot of insurance on.
So Raman, let me say one thing before you go ahead. Sorry to interrupt, but I have to say that your popularity lies in being unpopular.
Yeah, that is right. They just say if Raman is speaking and he doesn't make controversial statements, तो फिर फायदा क्या हुआ? So, you called it moonlighting, Lakshmi. I ran a business earlier where I used to do translations from French, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, etc. And we used to do the processing of the databases in English, but the original documents were in native languages. And I had only 1 or 2 people who understood those languages. But we had moonlighting scientists. This was technical work. So they were physicists, chemists, etc., who used to translate those documents into English for us. They had a day job. We paid them very well for the evening. They were in their native countries. They'd log in the evening. Somebody do 1 document, 2 documents, 3. I had more than 3,000 such people. Wow. Who were paid handsomely for translation. and do it. Now, at one level, that is moonlighting, and moonlighting is a bad word in our dictionary. I am saying if you just change that to a gig worker
Yeah.
and say that the gig worker does work for Lakshmi in the morning and Jhankhana in the afternoon and Raman in the evening, and he or she is paid by the transaction. अरे वो 8 घंटे सोता है, मेरे बाप का क्या जाता है अगर वो मेरे लिए 5 घंटे काम करता है और उतनी ट्रांजैक्शन बनाता है. But you know, there is a rethink. I think one big aspect of the pandemic is that we are never going to go back to our old ways.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It will never be all from office. Yeah, it will also never be all from home, and I'll talk a little more about it. But understanding that this guy, now tell me, I'm right now sitting in Delhi. I have my organization in Delhi. I follow all the laws of Delhi in hiring my employees and looking after them and doing whatever. In work from home, somebody goes into Uttar Pradesh, only Uttar Pradesh because elections are happening, right? The laws of Uttar Pradesh are very different.
Yeah.
What laws am I supposed to follow? The Delhi laws or Uttar Pradesh laws? But he's only working from home. Oh, okay, then that means that it's okay, I can follow Delhi laws. But what if it becomes a norm? What laws do I follow when the employee is there? Is he or she an employee or can he be a contractor? Do I need to do TDS as salary or do I have to charge GST when I bill him? See, there are very fundamental questions of tomorrow that we need to be able to answer, because the moonlighting, if we look at it that he or she is my employee, which by definition means you will not work for anybody else, as against he or she is my contractor for 8 hours or 40 hours a week, whether those 40 hours are done in 2 days or 3 days, and for the balance 40 hours he or she can work somebody else, the paradigm or the mindset changes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we have the answer, at least I don't. But I am saying as an industry, we need to talk to each other and talk to the government and figure out the answers. Like one of my employees told me, कि घर बिजली का मीटर देखने आया. I was home because I'm working from home. No. So I was home. So I told him, जल्दी कर लो, मैं काम कर रहा हूँ. क्या आपका ऑफिस है? कहता हाँ ऑफिस है. कहता आपका कमर्शियल रेट लगेगा बिजली का.
Oh my goodness. Oh boy, this is.
But that is the law in our land.
Oh my goodness.
By law, only doctors, beauticians, and lawyers can work from home.
Oh goodness me, we didn't know this.
And they have to pay commercial electricity rates
Oof.
and commercial rates for house tax. So, you know, there is a lot to be understood and addressed for the post-pandemic era, where the skills and the talent have to be retained. And then when you skill a person, you know, Lakshmi, if you skill a person for your company and you are skilling a contractor now, not an employee, we are traditionally, our mindset is we are skilling an employee और वो हमारे लिए काम करेगा. That is why we say moonlighting is bad.
Yeah.
Because he or she is an employee. But when he or she is a contractor, if I am skilling them, then how do I get my returns? Do I say, for me, give me a discount? Or do I say that you cannot work for anybody else for 6 months? I don't know what the answer is, but the answer has to be found.
Yeah.
Let me dwell a little on a different aspect on work from home. My favorite topic, or should I say my present favorite topic. You know, actually we talk of work from home, and I have gone to various levels of the government, including the highest level in the government, the Honorable Prime Minister, to say this is not work from home. वो कहते हैं अरे क्या बोल रहे हो, work from home ही तो है. No sir, this is work from residence. Because the home is where the mother cooks the food and I eat from my mother's kitchen.
Wow.
This is residence. I have left my home. I have come and taken an apartment in a town or city. It is my residence. And if we make policies that say 4 days work from home, 1 day work from office, that kid will never be able to go home because his home is 1 day's train ride.
Absolutely.
So what are we trying to do? Why is it 4 days, 3 days in home and 2 days in office or 1 day in office? Where is the work from home? Home means understanding where he or she is going to be. Home means how do we get the culture into the employees of what is my organization's culture. Home means how do I pipe my technology to him or her without it being compromised. There are a lot of issues to be taken. I mean, in one of my companies, which I've since sold, I ran a very profitable remote location that, considering both of the wonderful people questioning me today are ladies, therefore I bring up this example. That was 100% female facility of about 150 staff. 100% female, deep down in the south where the nearest railhead was 4 hours drive from this facility. We discovered that that town had educated masters of science, and this was high-end technical work, where parents would never allow the female child to go to town and city because of the culture and the ethos. But when we set up the center there, which was walking distance from their home, or a short scooty ride, a lot of scooties came into being, and my staff used to come on scooties. They would come and my attrition was exceedingly low, and these people were delighted because they did not have those job opportunities in that small town.
I'm sure.
Our biggest opportunity as a country is to leverage the fiber optic network that we have to smaller towns and cities and make work from home a reality, very different from work from residence, which is what we are doing today.
So you've spoken or stolen my thoughts, you've spoken my heart. That is what I carry in my heart all the time. I tell my colleagues, I tell my clients, this hybrid is not gonna work because the purpose is not getting served. Let it either be work from home or work from office, because the way you call them to office at any point, it means I can never go and hire from the hinterland of India. I can't hire from B class, C class cities. We want to create employment there. How do you create employment?
That is why you people are so lucky.
Yeah.
You are young and you have your professional career in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm old with one leg in the grave.
Oh, no way.
I wish I was as young as you, because the opportunities that the pandemic has created,
Amen.
Given our fiber optic network in this country, given the price points at which people in smaller towns and cities will be able to work, given that technology, I can sit in my office with a 32 or a 64-inch TV. Just imagine that TV. All of you are seeing these 3 pictures of 3 of us. Now think of this same size pictures on a 64-inch TV, where there are 64 such pictures, where there is one who's working in Jharkhand, one who's working in Patiala, one who's working in Lucknow. You can all see them. You click on one and say, Ramesh, aise nahi karte, aise karte hain.
Yeah.
That is the work from home future. Absolutely. That is the technology future. That is what one SME will wake up and create the technology platform. At least I'm telling the government that the government must co-pay creating that platform that will make this happen. That is what will create the jobs. The next million jobs will come from smaller towns and cities.
So well said.
Wonderful.
I think, yeah, great.
Wonderful, Raman. I mean, this is like really a high note where, we can really say that that's the way forward. really working from home or working from hometowns. That's another concept, coming up, where people, even though they can't really work from home since they're in villages, they at least can come to centers which government is creating and, work from there. So at least they come there, they work, and they still go back home. They don't really have to.
No, but why the government? Why not start a private sector, give some tax incentives to people to set up 10-room, 10-bedroom offices where people who can't work from home can come to those offices, and that becomes a business proposition. Give some tax incentives, create
Yeah,
a
brilliant.
technology, create an architecture. Let the entrepreneur take over. We talk of Startup India. I mean, I am sorry. I don't need unicorns. I need people who create jobs in this country, not people who create billions of dollars for a handful of people. We have to create jobs. That is what is important.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I think we're
Yeah, we are
running
actually,
out.
I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah, running
constrained
out
of
We
of
touched
time.
our time. Thank you
yeah,
very
time.
much.
Yeah, we really on constraint of time. So it was really fantastic. I mean, it was such a rejuvenating and exciting discussion we had, Raman. I mean, I'm like so thrilled, and I could really take away so much from this, and I'm sure our audience also did. And just to very briefly summarize, we just sort of talked about, started off with skill building, where the universities have to really look into and collaborate with the industry to pick up the latest technology to educate the people. And so basically they really need to upgrade themselves, the professors. And talking about growth of SMEs, definitely they have to start exploring and testing the market, because that's really vital for the growth of the SMEs. Coming to technology, like what you said, it's a matter of life and death if we don't adopt the technology. So absolutely, we have to leverage, the BPM industry has to leverage to survive in this world right now. And people, now you talked about the revenue sort of increasing with this technology. Yes, it's increasing faster, maybe not so much as people, but and that's the way forward. And last, like what you said, your favorite, work from home, we really have to create this. And I think pandemic was something which really woke us up. Otherwise, I don't even know when we would have come to this. And I think this is the best way. We started off, and I think we should continue, because this is definitely going to be helpful for all the people, and I think even definitely for the industry. Jhankhana, you have anything else to add?
Oh, I guess you've summed it up so well. And I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And I'm sure all of you sitting out there listening to us enjoyed it as much. And look forward to another one with you. I think we should do a series. We should invite feedback from our audience who are listening in today. And if they have more questions, we could do a next one. So thank you so much, Lakshmi. And thank you so much, Raman.
Thank you, Raman.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. This was fascinating. I enjoyed doing it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kind of you.